Brandon Ingram has quietly become the most underrated player in the NBA. The Toronto Raptors are entering the 2025-26 season with more uncertainty than clarity. A reshaped roster, pressure from ownership, and general manager Bobby Webster stepping fully into the spotlight as Toronto's top decision-maker have made this campaign one of the most important in recent memory. Fans and analysts alike are already debating whether this team has enough talent to return to relevance in the Eastern Conference, or if the gamble of recent moves could backfire in dramatic fashion. While some outlets, such as ESPN, have been skeptical and even projected the Raptors to land in the dreaded purgatory zone outside of the playoff picture, others see more reason for optimism. In fact, Bleacher Report's Grant Hughes recently listed Toronto among the 5 NBA teams that will improve the most next season. And at the center of that optimism is a player who has somehow slipped under the radar, Brandon Ingram. The question that lingers is simple yet powerful: has Ingram quietly become the most underrated player in the NBA? Why Brandon Ingram is overlooked at first glance? It might seem strange to call a former All-Star and former number 2 overall pick underrated. Ingram has already proven himself as a scorer, playmaker, and versatile wing. Yet perception often lags behind reality in the NBA, and several factors have contributed to Ingram being overlooked in conversations about the league's elite. 1. Injuries and availability. Ingram played just 18 games in the 2024-25 season after an ankle injury limited his impact. While some suggest the Raptors may have held him out strategically as part of their tanking efforts, the end result was the same: less exposure, less buzz, and less credit for what he can bring to a team. 2. Playstyle criticism. Ingram has built his game on heavy isolation possessions and a strong mid-range package. In an era dominated by three-point shooting and fast-paced offenses, players who rely on contested mid-range shots are often labeled as inefficient or outdated, even if their overall production tells a different story. 3. Small market effect. Playing in Toronto has historically meant less visibility, especially compared to stars on American big-market teams. Ingram's move from New Orleans to Toronto didn't suddenly make him more of a household name, it may have made him even easier to overlook. A changing offensive profile. Despite these perceptions, there are signs that Ingram is adapting his game in ways that could redefine his value. According to Hughes, Ingram's three-point attempts rose dramatically to 6.4 per game in 2024-25, compared to just 3.8, 3.6, and 4.1 in the previous 3 seasons. That kind of increase matters. Even if his shooting efficiency varied, the willingness to let it fly from deep shows a mindset shift. For the Raptors, this change is huge, adding a wing who can not only create in isolation but also stretch defenses with consistent perimeter attempts fits perfectly into the modern NBA model. Toronto's coaching staff will likely emphasize this further, building sets to maximize Ingram's catch-and-shoot looks while still allowing him to operate in his comfort zone in the mid-range. If he can strike the right balance, Ingram could evolve into a far more dangerous offensive weapon than casual fans give him credit for. The talent has never been the question when you strip away the health concerns and public perception. What remains is undeniable: Brandon Ingram is one of the most skilled offensive players in the league. His size, 6'8", length, and ball handling ability allow him to create shots that few defenders can contest. He has already shown flashes of being a secondary playmaker, capable of handling the ball in pick-and-roll situations and finding teammates. His footwork in the mid-post, his pull-up shooting, and his ability to attack mismatches are all reminiscent of the skill sets we associate with elite scorers. What has held him back has never been talent, it has been availability and consistency. If Ingram can stay on the floor for 60-70 games this season, it's not a stretch to imagine him averaging 23-25 points per game while playing a critical role in Toronto's offensive identity. That's not just all-star caliber, that's franchise cornerstone material. Why he fits the Raptors' plans. Toronto's current roster construction is fascinating but precarious. With a mix of young talent, veteran presence, and high expectations, the Raptors are trying to thread the needle between development and competitiveness. Ingram gives them a bridge between those two paths. For the younger players like Scottie Barnes, having a scoring threat like Ingram alleviates pressure and allows them to grow without having to carry the offensive burden. For the coaching staff, Ingram's ability to function as both a primary option and an off-ball threat creates flexibility in playbook design. For management and ownership, Ingram represents a high-upside gamble. If he can stay healthy, he could be the face of the franchise moving forward. In short, Ingram is both insurance and upside rolled into one. The perception problem. So why is he underrated? Part of it comes down to narrative. Fans and media alike tend to focus on the big names who dominate nightly highlights, players like Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, or Anthony Edwards. Ingram doesn't play with that same flashy, electrifying style, and his quiet demeanor doesn't demand attention. Combine that with injuries limiting his availability, and it's easy for him to slip through the cracks of the conversation. But ask coaches, scouts, or players around the league, and many would tell you that Ingram is far more impactful than his reputation suggests. The season of redemption, the 2025-26 season, could be Ingram's chance to change the narrative once and for all. If he stays healthy and Toronto exceeds expectations, it won't take long for the basketball world to recognize what he brings. Imagine the headlines if Ingram averages 24 points, improves his three-point percentage, and helps Toronto secure a top 6 seed in the East. Suddenly, the narrative flips from underrated to resurgent star. Even if Toronto struggles, Ingram has the opportunity to redefine his game and show the league that he belongs in the conversation with the NBA's best wings. Final thoughts. Calling Brandon Ingram underrated may sound odd to some, but the evidence is there. His injuries have overshadowed his talent, his quiet personality has kept him out of headlines, and his market has limited his visibility. But the skill set, production, and potential are undeniable. This season, the Raptors will need every ounce of his ability if they hope to rise above mediocrity. And if Ingram can stay healthy, fans may finally realize that the player they've been sleeping on all these years is still in his prime and ready to shine. For now, though, Brandon Ingram might just hold the crown as the most underrated player in the NBA.